You've been through the entire course now, and it's time to prepare for the market to open. Let's break down my checklist, what you can do every morning to ensure that you're prepared for anything. We don't care if the market goes up. We don't care if the market goes down. We're looking for opportunities to get in, to get out, and make money. So, after everything you've learned here in this course, you should be able to go through this checklist from 1 to 10 and prepare for the market open. So let's break it down. The first step every morning when you wake up and you get ready for the market to open, you want to check out the economic calendar. We're going to look at the economic calendar here. We can see today is August 13th, right? August 13th. What do we got going on today? We've got some PPI numbers, some inflation numbers coming out there at 8:30. We've got 8:55 numbers, and then nothing really else for the rest of the day. So the big numbers are going to be those 8:30 numbers. Luckily for us, we don't normally start trading till about 9 a.m. till 9:30. So these numbers won't really be that big of an issue for us, but hopefully it'll get the market moving. So they're on the onlyprofirms.com website. We've got the free economic calendar. So that's the first thing I'm going to do when I wake up in the morning, just to get an idea of what is in store. So I want to see if there's 9:45 numbers. Are there 10 o'clock numbers? What should I be looking out for? Is there an FOMC meeting? Is there a major event going on later in the day that might cause the market to go sideways in the morning? Well, looks like most of the numbers are coming out here at 8:30. So we can go ahead and check off that. So we pull up the chart here. This is the NASDAQ chart, the NQ. You can do the same thing for the ES, the Dow, whatever you're trading. It all is pretty much the same, but for this video, we'll be looking at the NASDAQ here. So I'm going to check the overnight move here. So the overnight move, the London market, the Asian market, what happened? And we can see that we have an overnight high, 18,817. And we can also see that this London low, the London low is right there at the 640s. Currently, we're kind of in the middle of that range, maybe a little bit to the upside there. But in general, I can see the overnight move here. And now I'm looking at this like, okay, we went 200 points up, 200 points back down, and now we're back in the middle of that range. So I see there's a lot of volatility overnight. So I can expect some volatility here at open. Again, kind of just getting an idea of where the market is currently sitting at in terms of the highs and the lows from the overnight. The fact that we're right here in the middle, I think this news coming out at 8:30 will kind of give us an idea if we're going to go up or down today, especially with this big range. So big range overnight, 8:30 news coming out. So check 1, check 2. Let's do check 3 now. Check 3, we're going to check the daily chart. So let's take a look at the daily chart. All right, we've already identified our highs and lows from the overnight. We are kind of breaking to the upside here. We've got this little breakout here on the daily chart for now, kind of breaking to the upside there. So we will just kind of be aware of that. Right now, momentum pushing, and the low of day yesterday, 18,500. We are at the high of kind of this, or kind of the high of yesterday. The high yesterday, 18,757. And I can see that we're kind of like right there where that candle got denied at. So we know there's a little bit of resistance here at this level. We've already pushed above it overnight. So we'll see how this kind of reacts at the market open. But again, just being aware of these things, identifying this, it's going to make you that much more prepared for the market open, right? It doesn't matter if you got all the ideas in the world and you do everything right. If you're not prepared for the market open, if you don't have a game plan, you're not going to find consistency. So just going through the checklist here, right? We identified kind of on the chart here that we are overall on the daily chart. I would say momentum right now is pushing down. It is bearish, pulling back here. So is this kind of the reversal level? Do we start to break out of this downward trend and start to make that move back up? Well, we're going to find out here very soon. So just kind of getting rid of that. We have identified kind of that downtrend. We're at this key level. If we start to sell back down, you can see there's a very good chance that there's more bearish action to come, and just kind of being prepared for the market open. So now that we've identified the daily chart, we're going to take a look at the other markets here. We're looking at the dollar, DXY. DXY is the dollar index. It's showing us what the dollar is kind of doing with the overall trends against the rest of the market and other currencies out there. Right now, the dollar kind of breaking back to the upside here. This overnight move, kind of very similar to the NASDAQ move. We got numbers coming out here at 8:30, so that might be kind of why the market's just kind of, you know, in this point where we're in the middle of this range, and the dollar's also trying to decide which way it's going to go. So the dollar right now pulling back, but kind of looking very similar to the NASDAQ. If we look at the ES here, very similar setup here as well. The ES, the high 5,400, pulling back there to the 5,370s, and right now kind of in the middle of that range as well, and a little to the upside, but still very similar charts for everything. So everything is kind of looking very similar. I think those numbers at 8:30 are going to kind of keep the market where it's at for now. So let's pull up the NASDAQ here again. We've gone through the fourth check, which is kind of looking at the rest of the market, getting an idea what the rest of the market's doing. If everything's kind of lining up very similar, well, then I'm like, okay, the rest of the market's all kind of in that same exact pattern, waiting for these 8:30 numbers. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the 15-minute chart, right? I'm pull up the 15-minute chart, get an idea of where these pivot points are, where the VWAP's at. I've got the overnight high and low already identified. We've got a pivot point there at the 18,639. Again, if you're wondering, these are my pivot point settings. I don't really do anything crazy. Very simple. We don't need to change anything. Just kind of keeping it simple. This is what I use for my pivot points. It is the traditional. You can kind of mess around and see what works best for you, but I use traditional, just keeping it simple and easy. Same thing for the VWAP. Nothing crazy there with the VWAP. My settings, very simple. This is exactly what you get when you go on TradingView. You type in the volume weighted average price, and it pops up there, the VWAP. So right now, the VWAP's there, 18,715. And we've got a pivot point, all right? Pivot point right now acting as resistance there at the 18,760s. So we kind of know, like, if we get above this level, right, and then we start to push, and then we got that overnight high to break through, we got that next pivot point up there at the 18,089s. Remember, the market moves in what? It moves in waves. So it's kind of like maybe we do one of these back to the VWAP above there, and then we get that push up. We'll see. Maybe these numbers come out and we run straight down and we get that pop back up. I'm kind of just want to look at this from a very like objective viewpoint and kind of figure out like, okay, what are the possible scenarios? What might the market do? And that way, when it starts doing something, I can be like, oh, yeah, I kind of predicted this. I predicted that this market would pull back the VWAP, bounce, and then get above that pivot and then make that move up. So not that I need to be right or wrong. It's just about kind of like playing the different scenarios. What would be this kind of pattern? What would be this kind of setup? And what would I be looking for in terms of taking a long or a short and things like that? Just being the more prepared that I am for the market open, the better, right? I'm going to be mentally prepared. I'm going to be emotionally prepared. I'm going to be ready to take a trade, cut it off if it's a loser, and all of that fun stuff. Also, let's take a look here at the kind of idea. Are we gapping up? Well, when I say gapping up, what does that mean? All right. Well, we got yesterday's close. Yesterday's close was 18,633. So that's kind of like the same level as the overnight low there. So if we open up here where we're at currently, we would have about a 100-point gap back to the downside, back to this low. Now, you might wonder, well, Patrick, we already touched that low and then we went back up. But the problem is, obviously, the overnight move is not the same amount of volume as the actual market open. So we could get a retest of that to retest yesterday's close. If we get bounce off there, it would obviously be bullish. If we break below that close from yesterday, well, then we might kind of get into a bearish setup here and get this move down. Pivot point there at the 18,510. So it's kind of nice. There's a pivot point right there at the 18,630s. If we break right through there, well, then you've got that pivot point down there to kind of as a target. And you've got, yesterday's low down there, 530, this 580 area. I'm just looking to the left, kind of these key levels, where we're going to break, where we could go, and where support, where resistance is, and all that fun stuff. So we've identified that there is a gap. The close of day yesterday, you can pretty much just look where the market closed at yesterday. And then I see like, okay, there's my gap level. We are kind of gapping up here. There will be a little bit of a gap there in the chart, about 100 points. So now let's pull up the number 7. We're going to prepare for the market open. here, the closer we get to market open, we're starting to look for bear flags, bull flags. You know, are we in a channel? What is going on here right now on the 5-minute chart? Kind of pulling back here with this pivot point right there. So do we kind of pull back here, kind of build out a bull flag and get that breakout through the pivot? And from the pivot, we'd be looking for that push up there to the overnight high. So kind of like if we break out here, we got that overnight high to target up there at the 824s, that little candle right there. We're going to push and try to get up above that 820 area there next. We do have the VWAP right there at the 716. So I'm just kind of, you know, I'm running through these scenarios. I'm talking to myself. I'm looking at the chart, you know, look at the bigger time frame, looking at the hourly chart. Do we have any patterns playing out? Is there anything that looks very obvious? If it's not very obvious, then it's probably not there. So if it's obvious, well, then you're like, damn, well, that's a bull flag, that's a bear flag, whatever it is. Kind of get an idea of what the overnight market's doing, that big pop up, the drop. Okay, now kind of, again, you know, breaking out this downward trend here. We broke out, we got back above the VWAP there. If we go back to, let's go to the 10-minute chart here. You can see getting back above the VWAP, this big pop up, and right now kind of forming a bull flag here into these numbers. We got 830 numbers coming out here. So the market kind of is in this holding pattern right now. So I now have identified kind of, you know, is there any patterns? We broke out here kind of there. So I know the market's kind of getting that bullish push back up. Problem is with these numbers coming out, anything could happen from here. So I'm not taking trades, you know, at least until after these numbers come out, being patient, waiting, watching, getting ready for the market open. Remember, the worst thing you can do is rush into a trade. Sometimes the best thing is kind of missing out on an entry and then being forced to like wait for that next setup. Sometimes it really does save you, because maybe that first entry you want to take, you don't take it because it's not the right setup, and then it ends up being a chop, or it ends up, you know, doing a fake out, or vice versa. So sometimes it plays in your favor when you don't take an entry, because you're like, well, I missed the entry, like on this setup here, like, do I really want to get long now after I kind of missed this push back up, that little breakout? Probably not. You know, I'd rather be patient and kind of wait for these numbers to come out. So now we've got all that kind of set up. You know, we want to figure out, like, from here, you know, where can we go if we do start to squeeze higher? I think, you know, like through here, if I'm looking at the chart, it's like like up into this area. There's some interesting price action, like 18,900. You can see kind of this last area of consolidation there, 18,900. Right now we're at this level. So we've got some resistance there at the top of those two candles back there from, what was that? Friday of last week. So Friday of last week, we're right there at that resistance now. We've identified it. We can think, like, if we start to push up, there's a very good chance that we kind of get back into that level. And then if we kind of really go for it, I mean, there's a lot of room, like back up into here. So 19,250 area. And the reason I'm kind of picking that level is just kind of into the middle of this, like, drop level. I won't say drop level, but this big move there on Friday had a big drop down, dropped like what? 600 down there to like a 500, 700 point move. So that's kind of like right in the middle of that move. And that would make sense to kind of push back up and to test that big move down there. So in terms of, you know, where we could go to the upside, that's kind of what I'm looking at. To the downside, much easier to see kind of where those support levels are. You know, the low of day yesterday, obviously important level here. We've got that low right there, 18,500. After that, we've got this area here as well. So I can see support. And then after that, it's trouble all the way back down into kind of like 18,800 area. So just kind of being aware of these levels. If we start selling, you're like, hey, it's nice to have these identified already. You have it identified. So if we start selling, you're like, well, where's my target? Well, my target's, you know, the low of this move yesterday, and then kind of different levels based on support and resistance. So identifying all this, coming up with this, and then also kind of playing out. Like, okay, if we break out here, where are we going to go? Ding, 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 ding. What would be that move up? And if we break through the low from the overnight, well, there's a very good chance that we would see that low from yesterday. And then we got a pivot point there. We got a pivot point there, 18,890. Pivot point there, 18,514. And yeah, just getting ready for the market open here now. So what I want to do is just kind of be prepared. I've got this all mapped out, and then I'm waiting for that first 15-minute candle. Once the market opens, I'm looking to identify that first 15-minute candle like yesterday. That first 15-minute candle. 9:30, the market opens. At 9:45, you get your first 15-minute candle to close, and then you look for an opportunity to take a trade based on the 15-minute opening range setup. So we have all of our levels. We have everything prepared. We've got a pretty good idea of what the price action's doing. We've got these numbers coming out in 2 minutes, and now it's just sitting back and waiting and being patient. And I think there's nothing wrong with just waiting for the market to open. Sometimes it's even better to not start trading until 9:45, 10 a.m., taking it slow. Remember, we're not here to get rich. We're here to be consistent. We're here to make a little bit of money every day and keep doing that over and over. So we want to get rid of any type of variables that might change that, right? We want to get rid of the emotion that I want to get rich today. I want to get so rich. No. I'm talking myself through this. I've got my checklist. I've got my plan for the day. I'm laser focused on just being consistent. I'm laser focused on protecting my profits. I'm laser focused on not losing. I'm laser focused on following the plan. Follow the plan. Follow the plan. I cannot stress it enough for you guys. The best thing you can do as a new trader is just to really try to drive home the idea that you are not here to get rich. You're here to play defense. You're here to stop yourself from losing. You're here to try to look for opportunities where you can find an advantage in the market, and then you're looking to exploit that. When you see a setup and you're like, look, this got back above the VWAP. I think it can push up. I think there's, that pivot point. Look at this. There's the news coming out. So the market right there breaking out. Look at how that played out as well. We had that bull flag. Even with that news coming out, we had that big move up. And look, we just tested that overnight high there as well at the 820s. So big push up here. We're right up there to the 820s. And now we're trying to see kind of what plays out here next. So again, bull flag, we identified it. It pushed up there to the overnight high. Can we turn this area into support? Can we get this move up? You can see now with the dollar, the DXY selling off here as well. So we're just kind of observing the market until we are ready to pounce, right? We're hunting our prey. We're looking for opportunities. We're looking for our setups. And from here, it's just getting these little flags over and over, bear flags, bull flags, opportunities, breaking out, momentum. We're trading. We're not here to get rich, people. We're here to get a little bit of profit. Do that every day, a little bit of profit every day. It adds up. The worst thing you could do is try to get rich quick, because you're not going to be able to, and you're going to end up blowing up. You're going to create a lot of bad emotions and a lot of bad feelings when it comes to trading, and that's going to put you into a really negative headspace. So start small. Start small. Start with the micros. 1 micro, 2 micros. Start very small. Make your losses like $100 a day. Start with the micros and just find consistency. I cannot stress enough with you guys how important it is just to try to find that consistency, even in small winners. $50, $20, $10 a day. Do that consistently for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Build on top of that. Build those good habits. Build those habits of cutting off losers. The worst thing you can do is trade too large. If you trade too large, you're not able to cut off the losers because you can't accept that you have to cut off a $5,000 loss. That hurts. If you're a new trader, you don't want to go through that. So trade small. Look for small opportunities, get in, get out, and then walk away, be done. Focus on that first 2 or 3 hours of the day, and then be done, baby. Get on the computer and then walk away. I'm sure a lot of you watching this would be totally happy just to make $500 extra a day for working for an hour. So that's our goal, right? We have our goal, we have our plan, we got our checklist, and we are ready to execute. So now the news is out, and we just sit back, we prepare for the next opportunity to make some money. So we're just looking for bear flag, bull flags, and breakouts, trade momentum, and be one with the flow, baby. Flow with the market like water. Hopefully you guys enjoyed everything that we went through with the course, and gives you guys a very kind of basic understanding of what you should be looking for and the plan. Have a plan, be prepared. And what's funny is, like, look at this. It popped exactly like we said it would, from that 740 area right up there to that overnight high. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Definitely not us. Not like we would have had that planned out or anything. Not like we would have been like, oh, what could possibly happen? Well, look, it played out exactly like we thought it would. So there it is.